Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is October 2nd, 2025. Ow. Even though I say the date at the start of every single live stream, believe me, it's not for you guys, it's for me, so that I don't start going crazy, because it's hard to believe that it's already October 2nd. It feels like I was just in flip-flops and swimming trunks yesterday, even though I'm still technically in my flip-flops. I'm wearing jeans, not swimming trunks. So here we are, another day closer to 2026. Ugh, gross. Where has the time gone? We've got quite a bit of things to take a look at. I didn't freeze, right? Because yesterday when I went live, I had to get a new computer, and so I guess I didn't set things up properly. And yeah, despite all my tests, I never got the chance to test live. And when I went live yesterday, my computer or my camera froze right away, but I think I fixed that pretty quickly. I think we're good. You guys can hear me loud and clear, right? Let's get some maybe some thumbs up in the chat or something like that, just to confirm. We've got quite a few updates today with the news. Lots of stuff to take a look at. Mark Carney is supposed to be debating Pierre Poilievre in the House today, so there's that. That'll be pretty good. I see people are saying they're ready for question period, but there's also a decent amount of actual news to take a look at. Now, yesterday my format was off, and I heard that loud and clear. Yesterday I started streaming some American stuff because the White House press secretary and the Vice President J.D. Vance were doing a joint press conference, and you guys didn't like it. You guys did not like the fact that I was streaming American stuff on House of Canada. So I heard you loud and clear, and we're going to stick to, I got quite a few thumbs up here in the chat. We're going to stick to just Canadian stuff today. How about that? Just Canadian stuff. So without further ado, let's get right into it, huh? Starting off with Doug Ford, who is all about saving the whales in China. Sort of.
That's unfortunate. As I have said, I'm disappointed that the federal government wouldn't sign off on moving them. I'm an animal lover, and it's just a sad situation. I'm really encouraging the federal government to allow us to make sure that these whales survive in a really great atmosphere or a new home. But it's terrible, and you put 30 whales in an acre. Like, give me a break. Like, they need to do a better job down at Marineland. But at the end of the day, if we want these whales to survive, we have to move them somewhere and make sure they have an appropriate area that they can live in, a large area. I don't like this. Yeah, I don't like these.
The spokesperson said if they're not moved, if they're not exported, they'll likely be euthanized.
Yeah, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So we need the federal government to sign off on it.
Weird.
Or these whales are they're on their hands because we want to help them.
But the feds are saying that if they are moved to this theme park in China, they'd still be living in captivity, these bad conditions you talk about.
Yeah, but what we can do, it's not just going to China. We can look at other areas that will take these whales. We don't have to move all 30 in one shot, a couple here, a couple there, and we want them to survive. And if they don't, well, the federal government has to answer on that one.
Have you thought about seizing?
Yeah, but do you know what the problem is? They're still.
Has Doug Ford, I don't think I've heard Doug Ford say anything about the ostriches in Canada, in British Columbia. He's concerned, like, where are these whales? In Marineland, sure, but interesting.
In captivity, they're still stuck in an acre. Like, I don't even think they'll allow me in there to inspect because they'll I'll lose my mind seeing these poor whales swimming in acre and algae, I've heard, and all sorts of nonsense. But we do have our inspectors going in there. But we need a proper home for them. Simple as that. We got to save the whales. The backup plan? Well, right now, outside of shipping them out, it's difficult. It's a very difficult situation with these whales. It's been going on for years. And unfortunately, it seems like every few months, a whale passes away, which is unfortunate. But what I heard, this is an interesting story. So they broke into Mainland. This is a story I hear. And the last whale that passed away, because people broke in, agitated the younger whales, and the younger whales went after the older whale. And that was it. So, any bunch of crazy yahoos want to break into Mainland and agitate whales, you should be caught and go to jail. Leave the whales alone.
Leave the whales alone. I wish that he advocated for the ostriches in British Columbia a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Feels like those guys are getting really the crap end of the stick. But that's not the only thing Doug Ford had to say. It wasn't just about saving the whales. Doug Ford is also angry that President Trump is mentioning 51st state comments. Here's what Doug Ford had to say.
Situation. It sounds to me like, or it sounds to all of us, I guess, that Governor Whitmer and you are on the same page in terms of your concern about what's happening. Was there any what can you guys as subnational leaders do?
Well, continue growing the trade and increase that $61 billion US that we trade back and forth, and we export about $38 billion, and they ship a little less, about I think it's 20 some odd billion. But anyways, we want to grow that trade, and President Trump's back at it again. This guy's too much. He's out there back on his 51st state again. I'm going to ignore him. I'm going to start focusing with our federal government what we can do to be more competitive, to lower taxes, create the environment and conditions for companies to come here and invest in Ontario. That's what we need to do. Yeah.
I don't know any businesses that are rushing to invest in Ontario. Ontario has predatory tax rates. I mean, to be fair, so does pretty much all of Canada. So I don't know who's just rushing to invest money in Ontario. I just don't see it happening.
Well, he drives me crazy, and yeah, I'll talk about him, but stop worrying about this guy. Let's start focusing on what we can do as a country, as a province, to attract more companies. We have Vic Fideli, and I always give the guy a shout out because I don't know how the guy does it. One day he's in Germany getting new business. Now he's over in Asia. He's taking a tour all around there, attracting more businesses. But what he did say, on a positive note, he said, Premier, the pipeline is full of $1 billion investments. And I said, well, bring them back. Let's start announcing them. And people still around the world, with all the turmoil, uncertainty, and wars happening, they look at Ontario as a safe haven, a pro-business government, and making sure that we cut the red tape and regulations, which we have, to a tune of $1.2 billion. And that's the last number they gave me. It's 1,800,000 person hours that you can reallocate somewhere else. So we got to focus on what we can do and stop worrying about that guy south of the border. And we have great friends and great allies. I can tell you over and over again, when I speak to Republican governors, they do not agree with them. They're too scared to go out there and say anything. Isn't that a shame?
Doug Ford, man. The guy is so friggin' funny. So funny. He's always, he's the one that was literally frothing at the mouth saying we need to shut the power off to America, but I digress. Now we're going to shift away from what the fat pig with rabies had to say to what Pierre Poilievre had to say this morning at a press conference right outside of Parliament.
Of liberal bail, extortion is up 330%. Because of liberal bail, sexual assaults are up 76%. Because of liberal bail, violent crime is up 55%. And because of liberal bail, homicides are up 29%. Because of liberal bail, Canadians are no longer safe. So Mark Carney, knowing that Canadians were terrified and frustrated by the crime wave his party had caused, pulled a bait and switch in the last election. He promised Liberals would flip-flop on bail, that if re-elected, After 10 years, they would have learned their lesson. And he said, we will act decisively to strengthen the criminal code. Decisively. Here we are, 6 months later, and where is this decisive action to reverse liberal bail? He said, we will move aggressively to protect victims by making bail laws stricter for violent and organized crime. Well, tell that to the victims of crime. Tell that to the family of Bailey McCourt, who lost her life to someone out on liberal bail. Then he appointed the single worst Trudeau minister, Sean Fraser, the guy who destroyed our immigration system, the guy who destroyed our housing market, and now his reward is he gets to be the justice minister responsible for the crime laws. It is no wonder that crime and chaos are out of control when Mr. Fraser and then, of course, Gary Ananasangri, a man who has been caught on tape admitting that he's implementing gun laws that won't work, that make no sense, and that will ultimately cost $750 million, all to win votes rather than save lives. These are the Liberals that Mark Carney puts in charge. You know, we're not asking for Mark Carney to be a hero. You know what we're asking him to do? Get out of the way. Get out of the way, Mark Carney. You are the only thing stopping Canadians from having strong bail laws that will keep them safe. And the media has wrongly said that what we need is bail reform. We have bail reform. It's called C-75. We have bail reform. Bail reform by Liberals that allows repeat offenders out of jail again and again and again. What we need to do is scrap Liberal bail. Scrap Liberal bail to keep violent offenders behind bars. Scrap Liberal bail to lock up sex offenders. Scrap Liberal bail to bring safety and tranquility to our streets. And that is why the great RPAN Canada has introduced Bill C-242, the Jail Not Bail Act, to end the Liberal crime wave, undoing all the broken Liberal laws and getting the criminals behind bars. This policy has been endorsed by the Toronto Police Association, various community advocates, Debbie Henderson, the spokesman for the Bailey family, for Bailey McCourt's family. Today, Conservatives will introduce a motion in the House of Commons that would push the rapid adoption of RPAN Canada's Jail Not Bail Act. Again, we don't need the Liberals to do anything. We just need them to get out of the way. If they will abstain on this vote and agree to let this bill pass, we can scrap Liberal bail. They've had 6 months since the last election. Mark Carney promised he would reverse Liberal bail laws, and here we are a half a year later, and those laws are still in place, and they haven't even introduced a bill. What is taking so long? Seriously. While people are dying on our streets, where our citizens are being massacred, while women are being killed by abusive ex-husbands, Mark Carney has spent 6 months spinning in circles, leaving Liberal laws in place. And he is personally responsible for the violence on our streets because it is him that is standing in the way of us fixing the problem. So we ask Liberals to get out of the way and let us scrap Liberal bail.
I mean, that's a fair thing to ask and to request, right? It's pretty gross how many criminals are back out in the streets. So this isn't out of the ordinary. This is a really common sense approach, and I agree with it. It would be nice to see Liberals abstain from voting on any of this stuff and just to let Pierre and the Conservatives pass it forward, right? Carney's not going to do it. If they would have done it, then it would have already happened.
Do you agree with your premier that a new West Coast pipeline is a litmus test for whether Canada still works and whether we can still build things in this country?
Almost. I think it's a litmus test for Mark Carney. There was a lot of grandiose promises by Mr. Carney during the election that he would build, baby, build faster than you'd ever imagined we could build. So when is this building going to happen? Here we are, 6 months after he took office, and the new Liberal government looks an awful lot like the old Liberal government. The last 6 months looks an awful lot like the last 10 years, where they block, baby, block. So there's only one person who will decide if this pipeline gets built, and it's Mark Carney. So I would encourage you all to ignore provincial politicians politicians who have no authority in this matter. Like, the reality is the federal government has the full authority over interprovincial pipelines. So there's one man who stands in the way of this pipeline getting built. It's Mark Carney. If the Liberals want it built, they will immediately repeal the tanker ban so the pipe can fill a ship that goes abroad, the production cap so that our producers can make enough oil to go in the pipe, and C-69 so that the pipe can get rapidly approved. Mark Carney really only has to do one thing. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Yeah, that was a good answer, except there's actually two people that are getting in the way of building a pipeline. There's Mark Carney, and then there's this guy, David Eby. So yesterday, Premier Smith gave a pretty big update as to what's going on with the pipeline and how the Alberta government is ready to go. The Alberta government is ready to triple down on a pipeline and to just drill, baby, drill. And this communist right here, David Eby, is not, he's not uniting with other premiers. He doesn't want to work with other premiers. He wants to keep Alberta hostage for whatever reason. It's the craziest thing.
In Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith is expected this afternoon to announce they are starting a Crown Corporation to be the proponent for a new pipeline. In your estimation, what does the province of Alberta now need to do to engage with British Columbia around moving oil through our province to the coast near Prince Rupert?
Well, I guess, it's neighborly relations are crucial between Alberta and British Columbia. And that's a relationship that needs to go both ways. British Columbia has literally tens of billions of dollars of real private sector shovel-ready projects that are going to drive forward not just our economy here in BC, but the national economy at a time that the national economy is under direct threat and attack by Donald Trump. Now, the problem that we have is that Premier Smith continues to advance a project that is entirely taxpayer funded, has no private sector proponent, is not a real project, and is incredibly alarming to British Columbians, including First Nations along the coast, whose support is required for the success of the billions of dollars in real projects that I'm talking about. We need a major projects office at the federal level, not a major distractions office, not a major politics office, but an office that advances real shovel-ready projects that will move this economy forward in British Columbia and nationally. And what I am seeing from Alberta directly threatens that. So I am all for working closely with Alberta on electrical intertie that's going to drive down electrical rates for Alberta consumers. On the hydrogen sector, that is, we both need the federal government to assist us with getting hydrogen to market to build that economy. On other major infrastructure projects and projects that have real private sector backing that aren't entirely taxpayer-funded wedge politics. And that's my commitment to Albertans and to Canadians. We'll do that work with them, but it cannot be at the expense of major projects in British Columbia that are ready to go.
Premier, are there any conditions in which you would?
So he's basically denying that Premier Smith in Alberta is even going to be moving forward with a pipeline expansion of any sorts. He doesn't want to commit to anything because he feels like there's nothing to commit to. It's so weird.
Accept a pipeline to BC's North Coast? And is there a chance that the Prime Minister could give the go-ahead to this project without BC's consent? So what have your conversations been with the Prime Minister about whether or not it could go ahead if BC objects?
My message in the quiet rooms with the Prime Minister, with the Premier of Alberta, is the exact same as the message that I'm delivering to you here today. There is no project proponent. This is a taxpayer-funded initiative by the taxpayers of Alberta currently, proposed to also be the taxpayers of Canada through the publicly owned Trans Mountain Pipeline project as well. This pipeline project requires a tanker ban off the coast to be lifted if, hypothetically, a proponent was ever found. Now, that tanker ban is in place. It is foundational for British Columbians who value our coast. It is foundational for First Nations whose consent we have sought and obtained for literally tens of billions of dollars of major projects that are real, that are not taxpayer funded, that will drive forward the BC and the Canadian economy for years to come. And so the challenge that I have is that this proposal from the Alberta Premier for taxpayers to do this work comes at the expense of real private sector projects that are going to lift our economy and lift the national economy, and for no apparent reason other than one can only assume politics. And so all I can say is let's stay focused on real projects. This is what I say to the Prime Minister, this is what I say to the Premier of Alberta. There's so much we can do together to improve the lives of Albertans and British Columbians and Canadians. And let's focus on those shovel-ready projects with real proponents that don't have to be funded by taxpayers.
Just turning back to the pipeline, you've expressed your point of view, and I'm just wondering, what would you do if there is something that seems to be gaining traction, whether it's from taxpayers in Alberta or otherwise? We've heard previous premiers like Premier Horgan talk about throwing every tool in the toolkit to prevent such a thing from happening. What's your position? What would you do to
he's going to block
prevent an oil tanker ban being lifted, or what can BC do to stop this? And also, if you wanted to weigh in on the assault of the neighbor by the ostrich farm, I'd welcome a response to that too.
Ooh.
Okay. So on the pipeline project, my priority as the Premier of British Columbia is to ensure that we're delivering projects that are going to lift up the BC economy, give families good, high quality, high paid jobs so they can respond to some of the cost pressures they're seeing, that's going to create revenue for public services that people need and deserve. The proposals being advanced from Alberta are just that. They are sketched out on a piece of paper. There is no proponent. It is entirely taxpayer funded. And the fact that there is not a private proponent, despite obviously huge willingness on the part of Alberta to subsidize this using tax dollars, should tell you everything you need to know about the reality of this project, which is that it is not a real project. The real projects that we have that are going to support families, support the province, support.
So he thinks that the pipeline isn't a real project, which is completely delusional, man. Smith is literally investing money into it, ready to go, and he's blocking anything from happening. It's gross.
The country in this time of economic peril are put directly at threat by this proposal because this proposal causes the First Nations along the coast and many British Columbians, myself included, who value our coast, to believe that the coast is under threat, which it is not. And so I think I've said it 5 different ways. I'll say it again. Let's stay focused on the shovel-ready real projects and proceed in that direction.
I want to go back to the pipeline.
So freaking bizarre, man. David Eby is holding us hostage from having a pipeline built. I don't get it. I do not understand it. In terms of the ostrich farm, what I thought was interesting is even Elizabeth May from the Green Party is taking questions about ostrich farms. Kind of interesting. Let's have a look.
Just curious what your take is on the ostrich situation at Universal Ostrich Farms. What's your party's position on that?
Well, I wrote the Minister of Health in so long ago now, a very different Minister of Health. It was January 2025 that I wrote to say, look, can't we get the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to redo the tests? That will remove a lot of the either anxiety, divisions. One wants to know why not redo the tests. It's not that difficult to redo the tests, but CFIA is refusing. So I think CFIA could help themselves potentially by doing independent testing. Do these birds have traces of avian flu? And it's become such a divisive issue. I must say most of my constituents who write me want that ostrich cull not to happen. And they want to, and I want to know, I'm not saying whether it should or shouldn't happen, but why not get the evidence? Why not? And this is our position as a party.
Now, this is drunken Lizzie. This is Elizabeth May, the Green Party leader, who's notorious for being absolutely unhinged, okay? That's what the Green Party leader had to say when asked about ostriches. Elizabeth May answered the ostrich farm question. Okay, you might be wondering, why are you hammering this? We know, we just saw the clip. Elizabeth May answered the ostrich farm question. Just say it with me for fun. Elizabeth May answered the ostrich farm question.
Stance on the ostriches in British Columbia and the culling order that they are facing.
Really incredible that the Liberals have caused so much. Because of the Liberal incompetence, we're in this mess. And when you have an incompetent government, you have messes like the inflation crisis, like the crime crisis, like the border crisis, like the investment crisis, like the fastest shrinking economy in the entire G7. When you have an incompetent government, you get lots of these messes.
Wait, on the ostriches, sir. Sir, you didn't say what your stance is on the ostriches.
This lady,
why won't you answer your stance on the ostriches?
I just did. I said the Liberals are incompetent. That's my stance.
Do you support the culling order?
Can I just...
Can we get your reaction to the new lumber tariffs?
Elizabeth May answered the ostrich farm question.
Why not redo the testing and verify the health of that flock of ostriches before engaging in what many see as animal cruelty? And I can't imagine, this is absolutely astonishing to me, that an animal welfare issue in Canada has garnered the attention of MAGA-type billionaires in the United States, which...
Elizabeth May answered the ostrich farm question.
What is your official stance on the ostriches in British Columbia and the culling order that they are facing?
Really incredible that the Liberals have caused so much. Because of the Liberal incompetence, we're in this mess. And when you have an incompetent government, you have messes like the inflation crisis, like the crime crisis, like the border crisis, like the investment crisis, like the fastest shrinking economy in the entire G7.
Elizabeth May answered the question.
Animal cruelty. And I can't imagine, this is absolutely, verify the health of the Opposition Party. Why not redo the testing and verify the health of that flock of ostriches before...
Why not redo the testing and verify the health? Elizabeth May, who said that a terrorist that Justin Trudeau gave $10 million to, okay, had more class than all the politicians in Parliament. You remember that? She was on stage, she'd been boozing a little bit, and she said that the terrorist that Justin Trudeau gave $10 million to, his name escapes me in this moment. It's a viral clip. You can go check it out. This is the same lady, Elizabeth May, the Green Party, hippy dippy, Lizzie Dizzy. Okay, that's her nickname. Answered the question about ostriches. And the leader of the Conservative Party.
Get lots of these messes.
Wait, on the ostriches, sir. Sir, you didn't say what your stance is on the ostriches.
This lady,
why won't you answer your stance on the ostriches?
I just did. I said the Liberals are incompetent. That's my stance.
Do you support...
Anybody who supports this type of non-answer is gross. Now, I'm not saying that this is a reason to pull any support for Pierre. No. But over 250,000 people saw this, and there is no explanation that is reasonable for why Pierre Poilievre cannot answer that question. I don't care what influencer, what creator you go and take a look at. It is inexcusable for the leader of any political party whose constituents, whose supporters, whose voter base has been screaming online about a really pressing issue, and he cannot answer the question. Clearly, in the pockets of the poultry industry, clearly in the pockets of pharmaceutical industry, because the ostriches have the antibodies to fight COVID. This is disgusting behavior by Pierre Poilievre. And a lot of people are realizing, oh, well, that's different. Well, he's kind of showing his true colors. Now, this isn't going to turn into a Pierre bashing segment, okay? But Pierre, according to, after studying his speeches, after listening to him for a very long time, Pierre Poilievre signed up to be a politician 20 odd years ago. Never had any other job, okay? Literally, never had any other job other than being a politician. He signed up to be a politician, to give a voice for the voiceless, to fight for issues that don't matter to all of Canada, but to fight for issues for you, for me, for farmers, for blue-collar workers. That's why Pierre Poilievre signed up to be a politician. I don't care if you're fighting for a new job. If you're a politician, you're a politician, should be doing what politicians do, which is giving you a voice, your friends a voice, your neighbors a voice, farmers a voice, hardworking Canadians a voice. And if you can't do that, the moment that that stops, you're done. No more being a politician if you can't actually be a good politician. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it needs to be said. I'm sorry that nobody else, no other creators willing to call this out, and creators that are defending this are disingenuous. This is a Justin Trudeau level despicable answer where Elizabeth May can actually say it and Pierre Poilievre can't. You may not care about the ostriches. You may not care about the issue. Okay, that's fine. Other people care about it. And those voices have been very loud. And ignoring it purposely and having no-name backbenchers of your caucus to go and do the dirty work for you is gross. It's absolutely gross. It's disingenuous. Politicians work for us. I don't give a shit who is saying, I don't care. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I'm not any teams. I'm on the team of the truth. And I want to vote for a politician. I don't give a shit if they wipe out the entire NDP bench and bring in new people. And if those people are good, then all of a sudden, maybe I'd be interested in voting for that, because it's not about the party. The party doesn't define who you vote for. It's who's in that party that you actually vote for, what they stand for, what they represent. And non-answers like that on massive trending social issues is weird. It's weird. That's what Justin Trudeau started doing. Pierre Poilievre built his entire career as the leader of the opposition, literally roasting Justin Trudeau for not being able to answer a single question. Why, Mr. Speaker, can't he answer it? Yes or no? You remember that? That's the guy that we all fell in love with. Politically, jokingly, metaphorically speaking, right? That's the guy that built this presence in Canada, fighting for you, fighting for your neighbor, fighting for issues that are small. But all of the small issues combined built 8-point-some million voters for the Conservatives in this past election. But that is going to unfortunately change if he stops fighting for the small person, because he's too focused on the final prize of being prime minister. Well, I'm sorry, but any politician, even prime ministers, have to care about the small person, the small guy. And the moment that they stop doing that is the moment that they become Justin Trudeau, who's now a verb, right? Anyways, Danielle Smith did a one-on-one with Vashi. CTV Power Play. Let's have a look.
Back in June of 2025, so just a number of months ago, you told Bloomberg, I hope all of the financing for this project comes from the private sector. I don't think governments should have to be involved in financing this. The laws that exist around the environment and regulations are the same. The greater context is the same. What changed?
We are prepared to put $14 million on the table to get us through the first couple of stages. One would be the technical analysis and understanding what the route might be, and some initial consultation to get it to a point where it can be approved by the Major Projects Office. And part of the feedback that we got from the industry was that they're not prepared to take on the risk of moving forward on this until we can see some major changes in some of the laws. So I've proposed what I've been calling the grand bargain with the federal government. Let's address the 9 bad laws. Let's commit to a bitumen pipeline, and let's commit to the Pathways project. And I think that that's going to be a path forward if we can come to those agreements together. So we just wanted to push this forward to break through the logjam and see if we can get that approval from the federal government.
What logjam exists, though? If the path forward, as you identify it, did exist, if those conversations were happening with the Prime Minister and the federal government, they had put the Pathways list, for the Pathways project, for example, on those secondary 5 items under the 5 projects that they wanted to give the green light right away. Like, if all of that was happening, why does it require taxpayer money to advance anything?
Well, it's $14 million, and I think that the reason is because a proponent has told us that they cannot get companies lined up to ship on their pipeline as long as we continue to have a tanker ban, an emissions cap, and some of the other bad laws that are in place. And so we know that it's going to take our work to make sure that the federal government repeals or in some way revises those bad laws substantially. And to get to that point, we want to make sure that there's some of the technical work being done in the meantime. The ball's going to be in Prime Minister Mark Carney's court about whether he is committed to becoming an energy superpower, if he's committed in creating an economy in Canada that will lead the G7. This is the kind of project that needs to be approved, and in creating the investment climate that will attract private capital back, that I think would be the exercise that we're all trying to do here. If every project has to be underwritten or paid for outright by federal taxpayers or provincial taxpayers, then it's a failure. What we have to do is attract back private capital again.
Why are you confident that the removal of those irritants, as you identify them, will do the job in attracting back private capital? And I ask because I think back to a time when those things didn't exist, right? Under the previous Harper government, it certainly didn't see, an increase in oil production that was through the roof, or pipelines get built through the roof. Like, there was very specific opposition that existed. Let's just take Northern Gateway, which was this 10 years ago, that ultimately made its way through the courts. The courts agreed that adequate consultation wasn't done, and that at the time was what blocked the pipeline from going ahead. Not the existence of a tanker ban, not the existence of C-69, not the existence of the emissions cap. So why are you so certain if those things are removed, the opposition that existed 10 years ago will not provide an impediment this time?
Well, we did have a private proponent 10 years ago. It was Enbridge. We had a proponent of Energy East 10 years ago as well, TC Energy. We also had a private proponent of Keystone XL, TC Energy. But when you layer on bad policy and bad law after one after another, that is what's chased the private capital away. And so if we can get to a point where I think aspirationally the Prime Minister wants to get to, where we can have this workaround on all of those bad laws, which is what the 2-year time horizon is for the Major Projects Office, and at the same time work to repeal or replace the bad laws that to create an overall improvement in the investment climate. We think that's where our interests are going to synchronize. And we think in doing so, the fact that we have so many of the companies that are at the table wanting to advise us from a technical point of view, the fact that we had over 100 executives in the room from different energy companies, that shows to me the enthusiasm to get to a yes. So I believe very strongly that if we can get to a point where this is on the major projects list, there's a commitment to get it approved within a reasonable time frame, that we will be able to attract those dollars back as we've been able to in the past.
So is it your impression from those proponents that they believe if, for example, all those irritants in the form of those laws are removed, that there will be a proponent for this pipeline? Because, again, they will still be up against, for example, coastal First Nations, which just released a press release saying, as the rights and title holders of BC's North and Central Coast and Haida Gwaii, we must inform Premier Smith once again that there is no support from coastal First Nations for a pipeline and oil tankers project in our coastal waters. Like, that opposition doesn't disappear even if Mark Carney does everything you want him to.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I have a very skilled Indigenous relations minister who's very sensitive to the fact that any major project that goes forward has to have Indigenous ownership as the foundation. That's a bit different than it was 10 years ago. That we're beginning with the conversation about how we can get to a yes. And she began the conversations already on Monday, making a number of phone calls, and she's going to continue doing that. She's already visited Port of Prince Rupert and had a chance to talk with some Indigenous leadership there. So it's a process, and we have to begin with relationship building and make sure that there's an understanding of the benefits that all of us get, not just Alberta, but all of Canada and the bands in particular. And so we're prepared to do a lot of that hard work. That's what Indigenous consultation and meaningful consultation is all about. And so that's why we got started on it right away.
And I do understand your point about endeavoring to change that. And if it were, 1 or 5 or even 10 First Nations that had expressed some opposition to this, I can, envision a path forward. But I think it was 61 First Nations 10 years ago that expressed opposition, so much so that they took it all the way through the courts and ultimately got a decision in their favor. How much taxpayer money are you willing to bet on something like this when the track record is what it is?
Well, I guess I would say that Justin Trudeau was not a fan of pipelines, and yet under his term in office, the Coastal GasLink pipeline got built. The Trans Mountain expansion happened. So it is possible for us to build large linear projects. We have to be able to find a way to do it at much less expense and with much greater benefit to Indigenous communities, as well as much more reliance on private sector money. So it is possible to build these kinds of major projects. And so this is part of the reason why we want to start that conversation now. We want to get to a yes. We want this to be a win for everyone, a win for Alberta, a win for the nations that are impacted, and a win for Canada also. This is going to be ultimately, if it's 1 million barrels a day, a $20 billion annual boost to our GDP. Governments end up benefiting about 40% from that. You can help to meet your NATO commitments at the federal level. It would help us to be able to meet our health and education and infrastructure needs provincially. We have to be able to build these kinds of projects. We've got a $9 trillion value in our bitumen that are beneath our feet in Alberta. We have to be able to get it to market, and this would be the way that we'd be able to access the new markets in Asia that are very keen to work with us on this. I suppose we could keep on relying on the same market in the United States, working with American partners and sending more of our products south. But that's also a failure of the exercise. The reason why everyone is talking about major projects in the first place is because we've become over-reliant on a single customer, and we need to build new markets. This is what it looks like, is that we've got to work together to make that happen.
It's a little disappointing to hear her say that we've become too reliant on a single customer. She's obviously referring to America. I wish that Danielle Smith was prioritizing ramping up oil production and oil trade with America, as well as being a little bit more self-reliant. You can do simultaneously. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm not a fan personally of the rhetoric that Canada has been like that our oil is too reliant on America. I think that that's good. I think that that brings in money for us. Personally, that's my opinion on it.
And I do understand that point. I guess, TMX has already greatly expanded our share of our ability, I would say, to diversify our markets to the boon of both provincial and federal coffers. My question, though, was about how much taxpayer money at a maximum you're willing to sink in, because it's the type of bet you're making is ultimately contingent on the return and you talked about the potential return, right? I remember a time when your predecessor of the same party, Premier Jason Kenney, sunk $1.3 billion into making a bet on Keystone that taxpayers ultimately ended up footing the bill for. So on behalf of those taxpayers, isn't it fair to ask if they're really going to get value for money and how much of their money you're willing to sink into a project that could not get anywhere 10 years ago?
Well, and the NDP sunk $1.3 billion into a oil by rail that didn't work. And the federal government ended up probably overpaying. I'm just letting you know. And the federal government overpaid by probably about $10 billion on building the Trans Mountain pipeline. This is why we need to create a process that is streamlined, where we bring in private capital. I would look at this as a success by having a private sector proponent come forward. Are you asking me if I have $34 billion kicking around to be be able to pay for this? No, I don't. Nor does the federal government. When you look at what the parliamentary budget officer said, when you look at the significant deficit that they're facing, we need to have these kinds of projects built to create wealth, to create government revenue for both our government and the federal government. And we can't keep saying no to everything. We have to find a way to get to yes. We have to find a way to address the legitimate concerns that are being raised. But this has to be a country that builds things again, because otherwise we're all going to face very, very dire situations in our federal budget deficits and our provincial budget deficits. We just can't afford to keep on doing things the way we've done them the past 10 years. We've got to get the private sector back and confident that these are the kind of projects that they can get to the finish line.
Just very quickly, is $14 million the max that your government will invest of taxpayer money?
I hope so. But as I've said, we will
but you're
also
not ruling it
be
out.
prepared. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we have a facility called the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, where we have the ability to underwrite up to $3 billion in loan guarantees so that Indigenous nations are able to take an equity stake. So that gives you an idea of how serious we are about underwriting these kinds of projects. We've already done that with $750 million worth of projects, including pipeline projects, that are going to deliver $1.3 billion worth of revenue to 43 of our 44 nations. So we've already put our money where our mouth is, and we're prepared to do more of that. The federal government also has a similar type of program, and we're hoping to be able to partner with them on that. I think that that's the appropriate way for governments to intervene, is to make sure that Indigenous equity stakes can be purchased and that they can get the long-term benefit from it.
But just to be clear, like, that's loans. I'm saying, like, right now you're putting $14 million in to get this process going. Are you going to put $5 billion in to get it built? That's the question.
Well, look, we have to find out what it's going to cost to build. I've been told that it could be anywhere from $20 to $30 billion. And no, Alberta doesn't have the money to build $20 or $30 billion. We need a private sector proponent. The way we get a private sector proponent is we work with the federal government so that there's an answer that's going to be yes at the end of this process. And I am very confident when we get to that point that the private sector will come in. It's going to be up to Prime Minister Carney whether.
I don't want to put bets down on this, but I'm almost willing to bet that the pipeline is going to be funded by predominantly American money. You're probably going to see American investments like Vanguard or BlackRock or Brookfield put some money into that, and we're gonna have an American funded pipeline in Canada. Is probably how that could end up turning out, because if she's literally admitting that Alberta, the government, doesn't have enough money to build that pipeline, then yeah, it's coming from private money. So there you go, folks. There you go. But enough about that. We're now going to take a look at question period. And before we do, all I ask is that you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That's it. It's free to do. That's all you got to do. You don't have to do it, but it's recommended. And without further ado, here we go.
And children, Alfie's legacy will live on the lives he touched in the community that he so dearly loved. Rest well, my friend. You deserve it.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the first time in history, a woman from Quebec is the world cycling champion. Magdalene Vallière-Mille, a young woman from Sherbrooke with roots in the Gaspé Peninsula, has achieved the incredible. She just won the rainbow jersey at the Road World Championships in Kigali, Rwanda, becoming just the third non-European cyclist to win this award. She wowed the crowd with her racing strategy. While she was on a breakaway, her well-placed attacks and an amazing final sprint left all her competitors behind. Magdalene, all of Quebec is so proud of you. Your victory will undoubtedly inspire many young women, especially those participating in the new Women's Tour de l'Abitibi this year. I'm already looking forward to next year, especially when Magdalene Vallière-Mille will defend her crown at home in 2026 on the roads of Montreal and the famous Camillien Hood Hill, which will host the next UCI Road World Championships. Bravo, Magdalene.
The honourable member for London West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week in London, we announced a $3.5 million investment through FedDev Ontario, Deliver to Tech Alliance to fuel local innovation and create opportunities across Southern Ontario. This funding will support innovators like Deep Reef, developing health solutions, Vessels, transforming prosthetic and cutting-edge design, and Polyanalytic, advancing material science, and many more companies. And these companies prove that London has the talent, the creativity, and the drive to lead. For our government, this is about more than just dollars. It's about delivery. We are backing people who take risks, who solve problems, and create real results for families. So from London to every corner of our region, this investment ensures that the next breakthroughs will just be imagined here. They'll be built here, they'll create jobs here, and strengthen Canada's economy. I am proud to serve in a government that is building a strong Canada through the strength of its people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring attention to the tragedy Christians in Nigeria are experiencing. The deadly terrorist organization Boko Haram is trying to eliminate the Christian faith from Nigeria. This is the same terrorist group that kidnapped dozens of young schoolgirls and burned innocent civilians alive in cages. According to reports, over 3.5 million people have been forced to flee their homes. 3 churches are destroyed every single day. 7,000 Christians were massacred this year alone, and the faithful must now meet in secret or in burnt-out sanctuaries. Sadly, the world is turning a blind eye to the plight of Christians in Nigeria. There are no embedded journalists covering the violence. There are not daily updates. Politicians around the world are not asked questions about how they will respond. We cannot ignore this violence and tragic loss of life. We must speak out and shine a light on what's happening so that people can donate to relief efforts and provide support to those displaced by violence. To my brothers and sisters in Christ, we know you know the power of prayer. We will not forget you. Stay strong. Keep the faith.
Wow. Powerful.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South.
If you guys haven't yet already, hit that like button.
To the late Dr. Jane Goodall. Dr. Goodall was a world-renowned primatologist, conservationist, and United Nations messenger of peace. She founded the Jane Goodall Institute, which continues her global mission to protect wildlife and inspire hope. Her groundbreaking discoveries about chimpanzees transformed humanity's understanding of our closest relatives and reminded us of a truth long held by Indigenous peoples, that we are not separate from nature, but deeply connected to it. Her life's work sparked a revolution of empathy for animals, for the environment, and for each other. In this time of climate crisis and biodiversity loss, her message has never been more urgent. Dr. Goodall gave hope to generations, especially young people, who carry forward a vision of a planet where all creatures are treated with compassion. May her legacy continue to guide us, and may we honor her memory through action to protect the natural world we all share. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What a loss. What a loss. The honourable member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton Police have sadly announced that 14-year-old Samuel Bird from Paul First Nation is now presumed dead, months after he was declared missing. This child was murdered, and police believe that his killers have hidden his remains west of Edmonton. My thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. Samuel's case is not an isolated one. In 2010, Lyle and Marie McCann were also murdered. Their killer has been brought to justice, but has refused to reveal the location of his victims' remains. I introduced Bill C-236 in honor of Lyle and Marie. It would empower judges and parole boards to hold killers and their accomplices to account when they are known to have withheld information on the location of their victims' remains. Families have a right to give their loved ones a proper funeral, and those who would deny them this fundamental right must be held to account. We owe it to Lyle, Marie, and Samuel and their families to pass Bill C-236.
Hear, hear.
Hey, if you guys haven't yet, hit that like button.
Mr. Speaker, food self-sufficiency is becoming an important solution for our families and our communities. And that's exactly what Urbain Culteurs, a Quebec City organization, is doing to transform the way that we think about urban agriculture. With rooftop gardens and greening schools and neighborhoods, their innovative projects are giving people back the power to produce some of their own food while beautifying where we live. Their mission is clear and it's inspiring: to democratize agriculture, to encourage food self-sufficiency, and to build connections between people. By growing vegetables, they're also growing solidarity, resilience, and hope for a greener and more inclusive city. I'd like to warmly thank the entire Urbain Culteurs team for their exceptional work. They're showing us that together it's possible to build a future where access to healthy food is possible everywhere and for all generations.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, you know Liberal bail has unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. Violent crime is up 55% since the Liberals took office. Gun crime has soared 130%. Homicides are up 30%. Sexual assaults, 76%. Hate crimes, up 258%. And more Canadians have now died of overdoses than the Second World War itself. The Prime Minister promised criminal justice reform, but half a year later, that promise remains broken. Liberals are obstructing our jail not bail bill, keeping in place their soft on crime, catch and release laws. In 2022, Constable Greg Prishala was killed by a suspect who had already been denied bail, but was released anyway. His death was preventable. Today, Conservatives are proposing a fast-track solution to pass our jail not bail bill immediately to keep Canadians safe. Will the Liberal government scrap the bail laws or get out of the way so Conservatives can...
The honourable member for Davenport.
Speaker, ole, ole, ole. October is Latin American Heritage Month, and it's so exciting to know that we have a whole month to celebrate the amazing music, literature, food, art, and language of 21 diverse and beautiful Latin American and Hispanic nations represented in Canada. This is one of Canada's fastest growing communities, young, entrepreneurial, and innovative. From medicine to business, from arts to politics, they are leaders shaping our nation's future. But they're also vital bridge builders. This community strengthens our diplomatic and business ties with the Americas, opening doors to new partnerships and opportunities. They help Canada succeed in a region that is increasingly important to our prosperity. Gracias to the leaders of the Latin American and Hispanic Canadian community. You're an inspiration not only within your community, but to all Canadians. So this month, let's celebrate together, and let's recognize that Latin American and Hispanic Canadians aren't just part of our present, they're building our future. Viva los Latinos y los Hispanos en Canadá. Viva!
Viva!
Here we go. Oral questions. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Pierre Poilievre.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the body of a woman killed by her partner was found in Saint-Jérôme. She was killed by a man who had previously been arrested 30 times, but set free by liberal laws. And that's not all. A 6-year-old child was found with a crack pipe in their mouth.
No.
Near the Benoît Larbre Center, where the federal government gives a permit for the use of illegal drugs. Will this government recognize that liberal legislation is threatening our children,
a 6-year-old found with a crack pipe in their mouth?
Minister.
What the heck, dude?
Mr. Speaker, all my sympathies for the families, friends, community members in the cases that my colleague has just mentioned. We recognize that we must strengthen legislation regarding bail. There will be comprehensive legislation that will be tabled in the weeks to come.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, crime victims don't want the Prime Minister's sympathy. They want to know why he's broken his promise. They want to know why Liberal bail remains in place, allowing for the same repeat offenders to offend again and again. The body of a woman was found in the last few days in Saint-Jérôme, Quebec, killed by her partner, who had been arrested 30 times before but released on Liberal bail. We owe the Prime Minister finally scrap Liberal bail, or better yet, get out of the way so that we can do the jobs ourselves.
Yeah, man. To be honest, Conservatives have been advocating for this for years now.
Mr. Speaker, this government is bringing forward comprehensive bail reform. This comprehensive bail reform is based on extensive consultations with the provinces and territories. It's based on extensive discussions with law enforcement. It is based on evidence. It is not based on cut and paste American bail laws. It's a bail law that works. We are tough on crime.
Oh my God. He's gaslighting the whole nation into thinking that he came up with it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To see the Prime Minister rant and rave and point his finger at police after they have been crying out for this government to scrap Liberal bail for years. We have Constable Greg Pershella, who was killed by a man released yet again on bail. We have a woman killed by her husband after he was arrested and released 30 times because of Liberal laws. We have 1,600 crimes every single day in this country because of the Liberal laws. Will he stop screaming, hollering, and jabbing his finger and scrap Liberal bail?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Good job, Pierre.
Mr. Speaker, this government, which has been in place for 6 months, has undertaken comprehensive consultations with law enforcement, with the provinces, based on evidence, is bringing forward the toughest bail legislation and sentencing legislation that will work, not one imported from the United States.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The government wants any proof that it's been in place for 10 years. The Justice Minister that Prime Minister named is the guy who ruined our immigration system, and then he went on to ruin our housing system. And now, 6 months after this Prime Minister looked Canadians in the eye and promised to scrap Liberal bail, that bail is still in place, and every day, violent repeat offenders are released onto our streets, massacring our people. Will the Prime Minister stop making excuses? They've had 10 years. He's had 6 months. Canadians cannot afford to wait anymore. When will he scrap Liberal bail?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am heartened by the knowledge that the members opposite will be supporting comprehensive bail reform when it is brought forward in a few weeks before this House. Bail reform that works, bail reform that's tough on crime, bail reform that is consistent with the
Pierre's
Charter
been
of
advocating
Rights
for this for years. What the hell's the matter with you?
The Honourable Leader of the
Toronto Police Association endorsed Pierre.
This government's bail laws violate the charter rights of 1,600 people every single day. Their names are victims. They're the people who get hit over the head with baseball bats, who get robbed, who have their children violated in what should be the safety of their own houses. We have a 3-year-old who was raped by a repeat offender out on Liberal release. We have a constable shot to death by someone out on Liberal release. And now we have a woman murdered by her own partner who was out on Liberal release. How many have to die before he gets rid of Liberal bail?
Yeah, man.
Right Honourable Prime
Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government is taking measures against crime. We are tightening our borders. We are reinforcing the number of RCMP.
This is literally what the Conservatives
were introducing
were
in the next few
advocating
weeks
for.
the most comprehensive bail reforms and toughening of sentencing laws. Bail reform that will work. Bail reform that will work, not bail reform that is copied from our neighbor to the south.
It's got nothing to do with American.
Already brought in a bail reform. That is the bail reform that allows the same offenders to be released 150 times a year. His Justice Minister voted to allow repeat offenders, violent sex offenders, to do their sentences in their living room. That is their policy. We have a bill before the House today that we could pass through all stages right now if the Prime Minister didn't care about who got the credit. Will he put aside partisanship and grandstanding and join with us to scrap Liberal bail, save lives for Canadians, or will he just get out of the way?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms won't just get out of the way, as the member opposite wishes.
Hear, hear.
What this country
This guy's defending the Charter of Rights of criminals.
deserve, what all Canadians deserve, is bail reform and sentencing laws that work. That is what this government is bringing forward. We invite the members opposite. We share the same objectives. We invite the members opposite to join us in swift passage of the government's bail reform. When it's
Wow.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean.
Unbelievable, eh?
Mr. Speaker, a week ago, the Minister for Government Transformation announced the end of
Hit the like
postal
button,
service as we know
folks, and
it.
subscribe.
For
It's
example,
gonna continue
the
getting
end of home
spicy.
delivery and the closure of postal offices. So, of course, there's been a general strike from Canada Post because the announcement was literally the end of their work. And the result is that passports are stuck at postal offices, checks aren't being sent out, and some elections might have to be delayed. What did the Prime Minister expect from this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is the current situation. Canada Post is no longer viable. Every day it loses $10 million. We need reforms. We need to implement the policies detailed in the report, and we need an agreement between the corporation and the unions. The honourable member, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are so disconnected and so irresponsible that they didn't even realize that they were triggering a crisis. For 10 years, the government did nothing to modernize
I went to
Canada
go ship
Post.
some stickers
There were
yesterday
no
that people
real
have ordered.
consultations or public debate about the future of this
And
essential
Canada
service.
Post isn't even
Just
accepting
silence and
letter
inaction.
mail.
But now, 10 years later,
They didn't take my
it's like the
package.
Liberals suddenly woke up and they
There was a woman there who was working.
and they turned
who
things
said,
upside down
"Sorry,
at Canada Post.
We're on
They're
strike.
depriving people of
I
an
can't
essential
take
service.
it."
How are they going to fix this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kaplan carried out a number of consultations with workers, with stakeholders, with Canada Post, with Canadians, with Quebecers. And detailed essential reforms for Canada Post. We need an agreement. We need to bring in appropriate reforms for all Canadians. The honourable member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, thousands of postal workers are wondering if their entire profession is about to disappear. They were not consulted. Thousands of women and men are waiting for a check, a passport, or another important document, and they have no idea how they're going to get it. They were not consulted either. Thousands of businesses, especially SMEs, small businesses that are wondering how their products can possibly be distributed now. They were not consulted either. Does the Prime Minister realize what a mess he's created? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada Post provides an essential service to Canadians and Quebecers.
Dude, there was a lady working at Canada Post yesterday when I brought in some stickers.
System.
And she said, "Sorry, I can't accept the package. We're on
Canada
strike."
Post losing $10 million day over day. Taxpayer money. Money that belongs to Canadians and Quebecers. That's unacceptable.
That's so funny.
We need a real solution.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Liberal bail laws have unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. Their law, C-75, releases repeat violent offenders at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions. The Prime Minister promised to repeal these dangerous Liberal bail laws, but 6 months in, it's the same bait and switch and the laws remain in place. And now, more than half of Canadians don't feel safe in their own homes. So the question is simple. Will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way so Conservatives can?
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives shout empty slogans, we've done comprehensive consultations all summer so that we get it right. The bail legislation that is going to be presented shortly in this House brings bail reform, harsher sentences, addresses victims of intimate partner violence. Mr. Speaker, the legislation that we're bringing forward is a complete, comprehensive package, and I hope the Conservatives will be able to support it.
That's right.
Honourable member for Oxford.
The Liberals are telling Canadians to be patient, that someday they might act. Tell that to the families of Bailey McCourt and countless others who have lost their loved ones. Right. Under their watch, violent crime is up, extortion is up, homicides are up, sexual assaults are up, and every single day that goes by with these Liberals delaying, 1,600 more violent crimes happen in our streets. That's 1 per minute. Lives are being lost. Families are being destroyed. So the question, again, simple question. Will the Liberals scrap Liberal bail, support the Jail Not Bail Act, or get out of the way so Conservatives can clean up their mess?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, community safety has been our top priority. That's why our first pieces of legislation have all addressed this area. Mr. Speaker, one of the most rising types of crime in our country is cyber attacks against our children. Sextortion is rising in this country more than almost anything else. C2 addresses that issue. It gives tools to the police to be able to catch these predators, these child predators that are walking, roaming free in our country. I hope the Conservatives will support C2.
Bro, the Conservatives have been advocating for stricter laws.
Crime and chaos on our street, and it's no wonder their Bill C-75 requires courts to release violent repeat offenders at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions. The results are devastating, and Markham Malone, a criminal out on bail for attempt murder, shot a man in a home invasion. These Liberals promise bail reform, but just another bait and switch. If he's serious, will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives finally do it?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, since taking office on April the 28th, this new government has been working on bail reform, Mr. Speaker. We've been consulting with law enforcement across the country, Mr. Speaker. We've been speaking to mayors. We've been speaking to provincial leaders, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to consult, and we will continue to bring forward the most comprehensive bail reform this country has ever seen.
Put an L down for up here, man.
Brant South, Six Nations.
It's been a long 6 months since this Prime Minister promised bail reform, and nothing has happened. Instead, these Liberals are obstructing the Conservative Jail Not Bail Act from passing, keeping soft on crime, catch and release laws on the books. Since the Liberals took office, violent crime up 55%, sex assaults up 76%, and gun crime soared a staggering 130%. Enough is enough. When will these Liberals finally protect Canadians, stop Liberal bail, and back the Conservative Jail Not Bail Act?
Good job, Uncle Brock.
Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we will be bringing forward bail reform in very short order, Mr. Speaker. But let me take this opportunity to talk about other legislation that's in the House that the party opposite could pass today. That is Bill C-2, Mr. Speaker, which gives law enforcement additional tools to do their job more effectively, to make sure that guns do not come in through our border, Mr. Speaker. That's the type of commitment that we have on this side of the House, and we invite the party opposite to support us.
Member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals unleash crime and chaos on our streets. Under Bill C-75, courts are compelled to release criminals early and under the least restrictive conditions. A woman on house arrest for breaking into a home with a weapon went to our local beach, kidnapped a 5-year-old girl, and was found in a canoe holding the girl under the water. She's been charged with manslaughter. This dangerous person should never have been allowed to walk freely on our street. The Prime Minister promised action, and for 6 months he's failed. When will these Liberals scrap their criminal experiments, or will they let Conservatives fix it for them?
Here, here.
Yeah, well said.
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if we wish to discuss criminal experiments, let's talk about the 10-year tattered legacy of the Harper government, which saw every single piece of its criminal justice.
So they're going to just ignore how bad Trudeau was, and they're going to go back 12 years to Harper?
On the speakers here. I have one notch left to go. The Honourable Government House Leader from the top, please.
That's insane.
If you want to talk about criminal experiments, let's talk about the 10-year tattered legacy
10 year of Trudeau.
which finished every single time at the Supreme Court of Canada having bills struck down.
This guy skipped the past 10 years and went to the previous 10 under Harper.
We are going to
It
see.
literally doesn't get any dumber than
The
this.
Conservative Party. They can vote for C2. They can vote for bail reform.
You're going to bring up Diefenbaker? Like, what the hell's the point here?
We will see where the Conservatives stand on
Oh,
criminal
it's Sir
justice
Johnny
in this
McDonald's
session of
fault.
Parliament.
12 years ago. He's bringing up Harper from 12 years ago.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker.
That's insane. By the way, all of our quality of lives,
It's important to point out that crime
every single
has
one of us
increased
who's watching,
by
our quality of life is
55% over the last
significantly
decade
better
while
under
this government
Harper,
was in place.
without a doubt.
While under the previous 10 years of the Conservative government, it went down by 25%. That's the truth,
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker.
Everything went to shits under Trudeau.
But now today, with the liberal
insane.
justice system, is that we see that a woman was killed by her former partner who had previously been let out on bail 16 times, even though he never respected the conditions. Why was he able to go see his girlfriend and kill her? How do the Liberals answer that question? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, there have been a number of tragedies in Quebec and elsewhere in the country, and we must absolutely take action. Conservatives for 10 years had a chance, and it always ended up being a total mess. It always ended up being dragged before the Supreme Court of Canada, where the court showed that the Conservatives had violated the Charter. Conservatives had their opportunity. And this session will give them a chance and see if they want action, or if they just want to pretend that they have all the answers, when actually they just want to go against the Charter. The Honourable Member, I would invite my colleague to go see the family of the woman killed in Saint-Jérôme. Does that family think that this Liberal legislation helped? No, they definitely don't. What's the real truth is that Conservatives brought in a system that reduced crime by 25%. We need fair but harsh towards criminals. That's the type of law we need. We need criminals behind bars. The Honourable Government House Leader. Yes, it's very clear, Mr. Speaker, that criminals need to go to prison. And we need a justice system as a way of administering justice that works, that respects rights, that also respects victims and respects our democratic system. Now, this session, the Conservatives will be able to vote in favor of victims' rights and in favor of common sense measures to limit crime. Will they vote in favor of that, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton.
This
Mr.
is
Speaker, once
insane
again,
to witness.
there are new tariffs that are being brought in for our forestry industry. Washington has announced further 10% tariffs on our softwood lumber, which is already facing 35% tariffs. And that's not all. Donald Trump has also announced 25% tariffs on wood products like wardrobes, for example. And during that time, we still aren't seeing the assistance that Ottawa announced at the beginning of August. This Prime Minister said he would save us from Donald Trump. Well, could he start by saving our softwood lumber industry?
You remember that?
The
That's
Honourable
something he
Minister of
said.
Industry. Mr. Speaker, we are aware of the new tariffs that the American administration are bringing in, and we completely disagree with these tariffs, and that is why we are here to help the furnishings industry and the softwood lumber industry. We are ensuring that there is a program to support our small businesses. We have launched this program, and I hope that my colleague will support that. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, it's just failure after failure for this Prime Minister as he tries to take on Donald Trump. Now we have these new softwood lumber tariffs. Yesterday we learned that there may be more American milk coming into the country, and last summer, or this summer rather, the Prime Minister gave up on the digital services tax that was supposed to be levied on the web giants. These failures are affecting Quebec forests, Quebec dairy farmers, and Quebec culture. Will the Prime Minister finally stand up for the Quebec economy? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, every day our government stands up for the Quebec economy. And in fact, in Saint-Bruno-de-Montarville, there are dozens of new jobs that are being created. And in fact, tomorrow, there's another piece of good news where Boeing will be able to create new aerospace jobs. Now, that said, on the topic of tariffs, those tariffs are indeed unjustified. We will help industry, and I hope that my colleague and I will be able to work together to help his riding. But beyond that, supply management is not on the table, and Quebec culture will never be on the negotiating table.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan.
It's loud, huh?
Woodbridge.
Liberal Bail has unleashed crime and chaos in our streets. Their weak law, Bill C-75, requires courts to release repeat violent offenders at the earliest opportunity. Recently, 3 suspects were arrested for a series of home invasions in Vaughan. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, 2 of them are out on bail. This Prime Minister promised Liberals would flip-flop on bail. But 6 months after he came to power, weak Liberal laws are still on the books. So will he do the right thing, scrap Liberal Bail, or get out of the way and let us do it?
That's right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, when the Honourable Member poses a question about repealing Bill C-75, I would suggest that it's a good idea that he read it in its entirety. He does not seem to understand that the bill actually makes it harder for people who are charged with intimate partner violence to receive bail. Now we are willing to work in good faith with members of any party to strengthen the bail system, have harsher penalties for serious crimes, and most importantly, to keep Canadians safe. The only question I have is whether the Conservatives will support the bill.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
The only thing the Liberals seem to do with any speed around here is manufacture excuses for their inaction. Meanwhile, in the last 8 weeks, York Region has seen 914 assaults, 296 vehicle thefts, and 174 break-and-enters. We know what to do. Mayors, police chiefs, and Canadians all across this country have been calling on this Liberal government to scrap their failed bail laws, C-5 and C-75. So, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are watching. Will this Prime Minister do the right thing, scrap Liberal bail laws, or get out of the way so Conservatives can do it for them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of
Throw W down in the chat, huh?
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives stand here and lecture us about criminal justice, but Canadians remember their record time and time again. They imposed unconstitutional mandatory minimums, piled on cruel punishments, and tied the hands of judges, only to have the Supreme Court strike them down, each decision time and time again. And now they claim that we're not acting on bail reform. It's a bit rich. And the truth is, since making our commitment, the minister has been working with
She's so confident that she has to read her script like a good little
police
bot.
associations, and frontline stakeholders to get this right. We want it.
Conservatives have been advocating
for Niagara South.
Jail, not bail.
Mr. Speaker, Daniel Senecal brutally sexually assaulted, choked, and nearly killed a 3-year-old little girl in Niagara. This crime has mobilized my community and galvanized an effort to have the criminal code changed so monsters like this never see the light of day again. The Conservative Jail Not Bail Act will restore safe streets and keep vile perpetrators like Daniel Senecal in jail. The government can act right now by supporting our legislation. Will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, it's exactly cases like that, which is the reason why we are taking the action that we are. With C9,
Shut the hell up. This has been going on for years and you haven't done nothing.
With C9, we made murder-motivated hate crimes a constructive first-degree offense, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Conservatives for allowing that bill to go to committee. C9 has created more hate-related crime offenses in the code, which, with tougher penalties, Mr. Speaker, C2 also brings tough on crime legislation as well. And I'm afraid that the Conservatives think it's too tough and have not been supported.
Oh, my
Honourable Member for
goodness.
Elmwood, Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' bail has unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. One recent example was a home invasion where the perpetrator was out on bail. Their law, C-75, requires courts release violent career criminals at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. This Prime Minister promised the Liberals would flip-flop on bail, but it was a bait and switch. With the bail laws still in place 6 months after he took power, will this Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we have committed to bringing forward comprehensive bail reform legislation, Mr. Speaker, that we will do over the next several weeks. But I also want to be clear, this issues around bail is not just the responsibility of the federal government, Mr. Speaker. It also involves the provinces. It's up to the provinces to fund their courts adequately. It's up to them to ensure that their justice of the peace as well as the judges are trained, Mr. Speaker. It's also important that they have facilities to hold. So it's a comprehensive approach where the federal government's ready to do its part. We invite the province to do the same.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, Liberal bail policies have unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. Swift Radio 12 a.m. in Surrey was struck by gunfire on Monday night. Thankfully, no one was inside at the time, but our communities live in constant fear that next time they won't be so lucky. No one should have to fear for their safety while simply doing their job. But after 10 years of Liberal soft on crime policies, this has become far too common. Enough empty promises. The Liberals have failed to act. Will this Prime Minister get serious on extortion and adopt our Conservative bill, or will he get out of the way and let the Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to feel safe in their communities. Our government is cracking down on repeat violent offenders with the new legislation that will be forthcoming to strengthen bail, strengthening sentencing and court efficiencies. We are working closely with provinces and territories to reform bail, sentencing and address delays, giving police and prosecutors stronger tools to keep violent offenders off our streets. This is what Canadians want. This is what they elected us to do, and that's exactly what we will do.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Dental Care Plan is a great success. This morning, the Minister of Health announced that over 5 million Canadians are now covered under the plan. In my constituency of Terrebonne, people have told me that this program has allowed them to see a dentist for the first time in decades, which means that they don't have to go to the emergency room for dental problems. Can the Minister tell us more about why this program is important to Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for her question. The Canada Dental Care Plan is one of the most important social programs in the history of our country. And I'd like to remind this House that the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois voted against it. Every day, more and more Canadians have access to dental care, and the average beneficiary of the program is saving about $800 a year. I'd like to thank all dentists, dental hygienists, and specialists who are participating in the program. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Étrements, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to reform his terrible criminal justice system, but here we are 6 months later and nothing has been done. He continues to release dangerous repeat offenders. Under the Liberals, over the past 10 years, sexual assault incidents have increased by 76%. The Conservatives are proposing a law we can pass immediately, jail, not bail, to protect Canadians. Will they drop the Liberal bail system? If not, Mr. Speaker, will they get out of the way so that we can get the job done? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Well, Mr. Speaker, in Bill C-75, we strengthened Canada's response to domestic violence between intimate partners. We strengthened the definition of intimate partner, and we increased the burden of proof for repeat offenders of intimate partner violence. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserved fact-based debate. If the Conservatives want to repeal a bill that makes it harder for intimate partner violence offenders to get bail, then let them say so to Canadians.
Oh my goodness.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Well, that's not the truth at all, Mr. Speaker. 14 alleged femicides have already been recorded in Quebec in 2025. Recently, one of the victims was murdered by her partner, who had a long criminal record of domestic violence. He had also violated his bail conditions over 16 times, yet he was at large, Mr. Speaker. Since the Liberals came to power, violent crime has increased by 55%. Homicide has increased about 30%, and sexual assault incidents have increased by 76%. How many women have to be raped and murdered? How many young people have to be abused, Mr. Speaker, before they understand and change the law? Thank you.
Quick shout out to the translators.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable member asked her question about C-75, but I suggest strongly that she read C-75 before asking questions about it. Read it thoroughly, because in fact C-75 makes it harder to obtain bail for those who are accused of intimate partner violence. We are ready to work in good faith with members of all parties to strengthen our parole and bail systems. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Well, I suggest that she read Patrick Lagacé's Chronicle, his column published in this morning's La Presse. He reports on a justice system that protects dangerous repeat offenders with long criminal records who are let loose on our streets. And who's looking out for the victims? No one in this government. They promised to take action to scrap their nonsensical laws, but nothing has happened. Can they do something and pass our law to support victims? And if not, they should get out of the way and let us handle things, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, this summer, we took the time to crisscross the country. We met with Crown attorneys and police bodies to develop a new parole and bail system. We don't want to pass any bill quickly so that it can be taken before the Supreme Court and possibly withdrawn or repealed. We are taking the time to do things right on this side of the House.
In 2017, Gulfam Hussain, a Pakistani national, was convicted of, in the United Kingdom, for, quote, adult sexual activity with a female family member aged 13 to 17, offender over 18, penetration. Said differently, Hussain had incestuous sex with his underage niece, and he was placed on the UK's sex offender registry. Yet in 2023, the Liberals granted Hussain a visa to enter Canada. Can the Liberals explain why they allowed a publicly listed incestuous child sex abuser into Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians' trust in their immigration system is paramount. That's why we're constantly working to improve immigration security screening processes, particularly in responses to new challenges and pressures. We have built Border Bill C2, and I invite my colleagues to help us pass that bill that will further strengthen our immigration system.
Good job, Lena. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
It seemed the Liberals couldn't do a simple Google search on a incestuous child sex abuser. Nonetheless, the person who let this person into Canada is now, thanks to the Prime Minister, our Justice Minister. And instead of deporting Hussain, right now the Liberals are letting him gum up Canada's court system. This is truly disgusting, and it's antithetical to what it means to be Canadian. And the person who allowed this incestuous child sex abuser should be fired. So why did the Prime Minister promote the Immigration Minister who allowed an incestuous child sex abuser into Canada to Minister of Justice?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of determining who's admissible and who's not admissible to Canada, Mr. Speaker. I would like to just confirm that the Canada Border Service Agency is working to remove the largest number of people in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. Over 20,000 people targeted to be removed who are inadmissible to Canada, and we're doing it as we speak, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to work with law enforcement, we'll continue to work with CBSA to ensure our borders are safe and those who are undesirable in Canada will not be permitted to come here.
Honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians he could handle Donald Trump. He promised he would quickly negotiate a win. For Canadian workers, it has been nothing but losses. We have the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. Invista is closing their plant in Maitland and moving to Texas. 100 jobs gone. Cap Paper and Kapuskasing is shutting down. 350 jobs gone. In Oshawa, GM is shifting truck production south. Hundreds of jobs gone already and thousands more at risk. When will this Prime Minister finally keep his promises, stop losing jobs, and start standing up for Canadian workers?
Here, here. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, just a few weeks ago, I stood with the building trades unions and the Prime Minister as we announced the first 5 projects that will be managed by the Major Projects Office Coalition. And Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canadians because we're laser focused, Mr. Speaker, on creating jobs and supporting the training that Canadians need to seize those opportunities. What they get from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, they get fear-mongering, they get hate, Mr. Speaker. And you know what else they get, Mr. Speaker? They get them voting against their own interests over and over. We on this side will take care of Canadians' interests.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister promised he would have a deal with Trump by July 21st. Well, it's October, he has no deal, and Canada is bleeding jobs. Imperial Oil is shutting down in Calgary, 900 jobs gone. Thousands of forestry jobs in BC are at risk because he hasn't got a softwood lumber deal done. He promised he would create middle-class jobs, but instead he's lost 86,000 jobs since he became Prime Minister. When will this Prime Minister abandon his job-killing policies here at home and finally keep his promise to get a deal and save Canadian jobs?
Members of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, is that it is time for all hands on deck, and that's what this Prime Minister has been saying ever since the election and before. This is a time for Canadians to pull together. In fact, the provinces and territories recognize that. They're investing in Canadian workers, they're investing in training, they're investing in major projects. You know who's standing against Canadians, Mr. Speaker? Only one group, and that's the Conservative Party.
Liberals are.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is saying a lot of things, but no action. He promised he would negotiate a win with the U.S. by July 21st. It's now October, and Canada has the second highest unemployment and the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. This week in Oshawa, auto workers were told more jobs are moving to the United States. It's clear the biggest threat to Canadian jobs is the Prime Minister's broken promises and failure to get a deal. Are Canadians losing their jobs because of his failed diplomacy abroad, his job-killing policies at home, or both?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Government never talks down our workers, never talks down our economy, never talks down our industries, and we are there to create jobs while we be protecting a lot of jobs.
Oh my God. G.I. Jane here, G.I. Jolie, freaking LARPing.
That's why we've been there for Oda, for Honda, for Toyota, for Stellantis, for Ford, and for GM.
You haven't been there for anybody because they keep
system in place to make sure that they would protect jobs. Meanwhile, I must say to my honourable colleague that Canada will be the second best country in the G20 for doing business according to the Economic Intelligence Unit, and among the G7, Canada
the second best. What happened to being the best? What happened to being the best? Now we're the second best?
Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would negotiate a win with Donald Trump by July 21st. That was months ago, and Canadians are worse off than we were before. The fastest shrinking economy, the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. All the while, the Prime Minister jetted around the globe. In Calgary, Imperial Oil is cutting 900 jobs. This is a direct result of 10 years of Liberal anti-energy law and policy. Canadians are losing jobs. Is it because of the Prime Minister's failed jet-set diplomacy or his job-killing?
Yeah, the Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, this government has a true plan to build one Canadian economy. And when it comes to building one economy, we've made sure that we would have important national major projects, and we've announced them in the energy sector, including in LNG. And of course, he should ask the Premier of Alberta what she thinks about that.
Right.
The other thing also I would like to say is that the GDP is actually growing, and look at the last numbers in July. And when you look at also what is happening in the country, wages are increasing. And indeed, when you saw 3.3% of growing wages across the country.
The honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, when I talk to my community in Oakville West, I hear a great deal of concern for the world around us. For the last 80 years, the United Nations General Assembly has brought leaders from all backgrounds into one room to bridge political, social, and economic divides. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs was there this past week and reaffirmed Canada's commitment to a more peaceful and prosperous world. Can the Minister share with this House how Canada is confronting the challenges our world is facing?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. Last week at the United Nations, I reiterated Canada's commitment to multilateralism. At a time when countries are retreating towards protectionism, Canada will not retreat. We will continue to be a leader on the world stage. We will strengthen our defence and security. We will strengthen our economic resilience, and we will enhance our commitment to core values. Mr. Speaker, with these three pillars of Canada's foreign policy, we will build Canada strong.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. Liberal inflationary spending, the carbon tax, fuel standards, and the plastics ban are all hidden taxes driving up the cost of groceries. Moms and dads are struggling to feed their kids, and food banks are seeing record usage. Still, these Liberals voted against our motion to axe all taxes on food. Nutritious food should not be a luxury, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals finally stop taxing food?
Bravo! The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
It's taxed when it's
Well, Mr. Speaker,
made,
that
it's
member
taxed when it's
opposite maybe
purchased,
hasn't
it's
done
taxed
her
when
own
it's
grocery
eaten,
shopping for a while,
it's
so
taxed
there
when
is
you
a
poop it out.
GST tax on food. I will say this, Mr. Speaker.
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, I know members want question period to finish as close to 3 o'clock as possible. But if we keep having interruptions, that won't be possible. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families from the top, please.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll rephrase it in a way that doesn't insult my member in the way that she feels so insulted. But I will say this, people who are grocery shoppers know that there isn't GST on food in this country. And so it's misleading for the member opposite to pose a question like that in a way that could confuse Canadians. What I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that we have cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. I know that this bill is seeking the approval of this House, and I hope they're not going to vote against the support that Canadians need at this time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Man, Liberals are gross.
Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, the Liberals voted against our motion to lower hidden food taxes on Canadians. They voted to keep taxing food with their industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment and inflation tax from increasing money spending. These Liberal policies mean families are paying more at the grocery store. Pork is up 37.2% just in March alone. When will the Liberal government finally stop their hidden grocery taxes and provide real relief to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Let's just debate on facts, and this is what the House of Commons is about. It is about the fact that, indeed, there is no GST on food at the grocery store. But that being said, we also cut taxes for the middle class on 22 million people across the country. We cut also tax for first-time home buyers across the country, and we cut the carbon tax. So we know that things are sometimes difficult across the country. We will be there for people. That's why thanks to dental care, pharmacare, and we'll continue to enhance that social safety.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Every dollar this Liberal government wastes means higher taxes hidden in Canadian grocery bills, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister hasn't even spared our morning coffee. Since he took office, the price of coffee is up 23%, sugar up 20%. Liberals refuse to scrap the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, and the fuel standard tax.
Shame.
The sweet things in life shouldn't come at a bitter price, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals finally axe their hidden taxes on food?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
All the experts will tell you that the answer to food insecurity is income security. First and foremost, what does that mean? It means good jobs for Canadians, but it also means a stronger social safety net to help support people in their times of need. Both of them require a strong economy in Canada. That's why our government is focused on making generational investments in housing, defense, and infrastructure so we can build the strongest economy in the G7. That's how we'll ensure families can feed themselves for generations to come.
The honourable member for Prescott Russell Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses in my riding of Prescott Russell Cumberland are the heart and soul of my community, and they're the key to building the strongest economy in the G7. But with the current trade situation with the United States, small businesses are facing unique challenges. Can the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Secretary of State for Small Business share what our government is doing to support small businesses?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for that question. Our government understands that small businesses are the backbone of their Canadian economy, and that's why we launched the Buy Canadian policy that will strengthen supply chains and create more opportunities for small businesses. We made it easier for them to access BDC loans so they can compete, grow, and reach new markets, and we're stepping up to support small businesses, especially those hit by the U.S. tariffs, through the $5 billion Strategic Response Fund. These measures will protect and strengthen Canadian businesses as we build the strongest economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker.
It's all just lies and posturing.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said Canadians should judge him by grocery prices. Across Canada, rural families are feeling the pain at the checkout, including in New Brunswick, where groceries are up 23%, far outpacing inflation. Yet yesterday, the Liberals voted against our motion to make food more affordable. Instead, they doubled down on their hidden taxes like the industrial carbon tax, their fuel standards, and their packaging tax, policies that hit rural Canadians hard. When will the Liberals finally stop their hidden tax on food and give Canadians a break at the grocery store?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Tobic back to Quack is home to McCain Foods, one of the great Canadian food companies, and whether you're from Johnville or Bristol or Heartland or Woodstock, you have a lot of sense and you know this. There is no tax on food at the grocery store. He knows it, they know it. Big common sense in the St. John River Valley, and we'll keep talking to them and doing stuff for them, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
The Parliamentary Secretary to Combating Crime posted on X, and I quote, "On behalf of the Government of Canada, I am announcing that on the advice of our officials, we have deemed the group kneecap ineligible to enter our country." Can the Minister advise if the Parliamentary Secretary was authorized to make this announcement? If yes, who authorized it? Was it the Minister, department officials, or the Prime Minister's office? If no one authorized it, can the Minister advise what follow action will be taken to address this serious misrepresentation of authority? Canadians deserve to know.
That's like the NDP's only question.
Immigration, refugees, and citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Persons seeking to come to Canada must meet eligibility and admissibility requirements of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Each case is assessed individually. Entry to Canada may be refused for a number of reasons. An individual whose electronic travel application has been declined can reapply by doing an ETA once they've addressed the reasons that it has been refused. IRCC cannot comment on individual cases. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And following up with the Honourable Minister, this story has made a lot of waves in media. It doesn't seem at all clear that there is evidence that the banned kneecap was deemed ineligible by the department. So since the minister can't discuss any individual case, can she please confirm whether or not any authorized entity within the Canadian government refused entry to the Irish banned kneecap, or whether it was just one rogue MP?
Immigration, refugees, and citizenship.
I think I'm starting to become an Elizabeth
Thank you very
May
much,
fan.
Mr. Speaker. As I said, we assess each case on a case-by-case basis. Anyone who wishes to enter Canada must meet the conditions of the Immigration Act. There's also an electronic travel authorization request. It was refused, and another request may be presented after explaining the reasons. We cannot comment on individual cases. Thank you. That concludes.
This brings question period to an end. It was a bit noisy today.
Oh, dude. I wish Elizabeth May had more questions.
I believe the
She
opposition chief
some
whip
pretty interesting ones
has a
these
question
days.
for the government house.
There you go. That's the end of the stream. That's the end of the feed. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you, what is it, Thursday today? Thursday today. Are they in question period next week? October, yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll see you guys Monday. See you Monday. Bye-bye. Hey, for those who want to watch Canadian news, obviously the main channel is kind of turning into a little bit of an American one. I did create a Canadian channel yesterday. Here it is. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to put it in the chat. Go subscribe. Go subscribe to Sorry, Not Sorry. Links down in the chat. Brand new channel. Just when I thought I couldn't make another channel. Brand new channel, folks. Canadian stuff. So if you're looking for the Canadian stuff, MSB's taking a different direction. Go subscribe to someone says good name. Yeah, I sat down, pen and paper, and I was trying to figure out what to name it. MSB Canada seemed tacky, right? I thought about Snow Mexican. I landed on Sorry, Not Sorry. Holy crap. A couple dozen of you just went. You guys like it? Well, thanks, man. Go subscribe to that channel. The link is down in the chat. It's a brand new channel with one video, so I don't even know if you'll be able to find it in the search bar, but I'm putting it in the live chat messages. So go subscribe there. I should have named it Snow Mexican. Maybe I'll make a 4th channel or a 5th channel. Oh shit, man. That's good. That's good. All right. Peace and love, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.